You're listening to The Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. Streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Los Angeles. Here's Eddie Garcia.
News from college basketball where John Calipari is leaving Kentucky after 15 seasons to become the next head coach at Arkansas. He won 410 games with the Wildcats, made the tournament 12 times with 4 Final Four appearances and a national title. However, the last 3 seasons, his team has lost in either the first or the second round. The men's national title game comes up tonight, a battle of 1 seeds, defending champ UConn taking on Purdue. The women's national title game on Sunday was a battle of 1 seeds, South Carolina beating Iowa 87-75. Gamecocks end the season a perfect 38-0 with their 3rd national title in women's basketball. In her final game at Iowa, star Caitlin Clark had 30 points. In baseball games of note, Yankees beat the Blue Jays 8-3. New York leads the American League with an 8-2 record. Pirates walk off with a 3-2 win over the Orioles. Pittsburgh leads the National League with an 8-2 record. Sunday night it was the Astros over the Rangers 3-1. Pitcher Ronel Blanco, who had a no-hitter in his first start, took a no-hitter into the 6th inning in this one.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick it, and our running back coach didn't take the biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We're live, local, and ready to get things rolling right here on your home for Alabama Sports, Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC. The Martin Houston Show, talking Alabama sports with Martin Houston. It's Alabama Sports, your show, your team. We'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. That's the Alabama One hotline. So go ahead and add us in. Also would like to invite those of you who join us on the live stream on the podcast. Make sure you add your thoughts and your comments in on chat. We're going to open the phone lines up here. Absolutely get your calls going. Got a couple of different things we want to get to on today. Wow, what a weekend. We got complete this statement section. I need to make sure I update it, not from let me see. Make sure we got the right one in there. And it is, this basketball season was, this basketball season was what? Love to get your thoughts on completing that statement, from a basketball standpoint. And we'll get your thoughts in that way. Of course, we had a big scrimmage, this weekend. After hearing from Coach DeBoer after the scrimmage, how you feeling? Do you feel good about the Tide and the direction that it's headed? We'll look at some of his thoughts, his comments from the scrimmage. I thought it was interesting. Last week they came out saying that the offense looked good in the run game, defense looked good in the pass rush game, and it seems that they addressed both of those. So we'll also talk SEC hoops. Big news breaking during the night last night. Will that have an impact on Alabama? If you've not heard, Calipari seems to be on the road, but staying within the SEC. Rumors out there, pretty good. Pete Thamel reporting that Calipari is headed to Arkansas. Love to get your thoughts there. And will that have a trickle down effect? Will its tentacles reach over into Alabama, the state of Alabama, potentially Auburn, potentially Alabama? Would Kentucky pony up and pay off that? We can talk about that. There's a natty prediction as Purdue tonight. I'd like to get your thoughts there as well. And then I had something that came up, X, and we may not get to this today, but I thought it was an interesting conversation. Now, when it comes to the GOAT, we throw that word around a lot now. The GOAT, he's the GOAT, she's the GOAT. There's always been this thing that we say makes someone the GOAT. But with Caitlin Clark's epic run, Miss Record Book, unbelievable shooter, scorer, athlete, is she the GOAT? And if so, what's the making of a GOAT? And if she gets the term GOAT, do people have to go back and reassess whether Michael Jordan's the GOAT? I'm just saying, I'm asking the question. What's the making of a GOAT? And I had several things up there, and we'll get to it. And like I said, that's one of those underlying conversations we can get to at any time. But it's just relevant now because Caitlin came up short yesterday in her run to try to get that national championship. Some people said it would have solidified her as the GOAT, especially if she had beaten that South Carolina team. Others say she's the GOAT no matter what. So just an interesting conversation. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, X. How you doing, man?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
Doing well. I guess, just right off, what's your thoughts? This basketball season was what?
Magical. Best thing I've ever seen. Hopefully I don't have to wait 20 years for Alabama to get to the next precipice on this journey for winning in basketball. But man, it was fun to watch the entire process, and can't wait for Bama to do it again.
Yeah. MHS 0407 said proud of men's basketball team. The game was closer than the score indicated. Absolutely. Timothy Robinson, completing the statement, this basketball season was, he said, far beyond anyone's expectations. And MHS 047 says Cheryl Miller is the GOAT in women's college basketball. Like I said, what makes someone a GOAT? We can talk about that. Virgil Williams said, proud of the boys. They played a great game. Roll Tide. No, if we could get these guys to stay and run it back would be amazing. I put a post up yesterday on Alabama Sports with Martin Houston X, and it's a picture of Pringle, Estrada, and then Sears, Grant, Nelson, and Griffin. And their numbers happen to be 1, 2, 3. And I said, hey, 1, 2, 3, can we get a run back, man? One, all those guys are eligible to come back for another year. I would love to see them run them back. Have you seen Grant Nelson's comments?
I did.
Is that confusing?
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he's already made up his mind.
About what?
How Estrada has played his last game and you're going to miss him. And
No, you're not. I'm talking about where he was asked about coming back, and he said he's going to have to talk to his agent, and he's going to have to talk to his agent, and if he comes back, he would like for it to be Alabama.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
That's such a strange. Let that sink in for a second. What does that mean? You're on this team. Unless, and I don't see why Alabama would have, told him he couldn't come back. So you see what I'm saying? Like, it was so strange that and Virgil Williams says money, money, money. In other words, he's doing what free agents do. Not committing to the school and the team he's already at. I just thought it was strange and weird. So we'll, yeah. And then of course, X, what about the news breaking last night?
That's crazy. When I saw that, I was like, oh, Calipari to Arkansas. That is strange. There's so many levels to that. But we'll talk about it a little bit more, but get you and Justin before we go to break. Do you think they come after Nate Oates? Yes. But I don't think he would leave, honestly.
Justin, what's your thoughts?
Oh, they're going to give him a call. I feel like I have no doubt. They're going to give him a call.
Yeah. Nate Oates has put himself in that air like Nick Saban was when he first got here. Every year there was an opening at a major program. There was going to be, Saban's going to leave. Saban's going to leave. Saban's going to leave. But there was one job that they said that Saban really considered, and that was Texas. How true that is, I don't know. Some people say it was almost a done deal and something happened. Oates has put himself in that category in just 5 years in Tuscaloosa. He's getting a call. He's on a short list on virtually every AD out there now because what Nate Oates did Saturday was show that his style of basketball can compete with the traditional style, big man, etc. His style was the only one that made Connecticut have to play deep into the second half. And, anyway, we'll be back on the other side. We got a couple callers. We'll add you and Kennington to the conversation. You listen to the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. We'll be back in just a moment.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We are underway, free and clear of any big accidents or heavy interstate backups to get any way. If you're traveling along 2059 from Foster's to Cottondale, the drive along McFarland Boulevard from Coker, passing Lurling Wallace down to U of A.
But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's Move Over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the roadside.
RiverResort.com. Reconnect at thewallflowers.com. Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy today and tonight. The chance of a few scattered showers. The high today 78. Tonight's low 59. Tomorrow and Wednesday, cloudy with occasional rain and a few thunderstorms both days. Rain heavy at times. Highs between 72 and 75. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 61 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. Don't forget to go check out Billy's Cooking Restaurant, Billy's Cooking LLC. Check them out for your lunch needs. They will be there waiting, then can be delivered via DoorDash, or you can call 205-632-8617. Wing Wednesday, Fish Friday, Soul Food Sunday. Great food each and every day that include those great hand-cut fries, great burgers and sandwiches there, as well as several other great options. You can find them on Facebook at Billy's Cooking LLC. All right, we're going to add Kennington Smith to the conversation, and then we'll get got a couple phone calls waiting to get in, have a few comments. In the live stream. Encourage you to join the live stream as well at Alabama Sports with Martin Houston on Facebook. Good morning, Kennington. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, hey, man, welcome back. You got a little extra traveling in that wasn't anticipated as the Alabama Crimson Tide has made a jaunt around the West Coast in Western United States, man. Just tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like for you and kind of the atmosphere you've been involved the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really just like a pretty crazy run when you think about where Alabama was going into the NCAA tournament and kind of what transpired over the last couple of weeks. I would describe it as a whirlwind. Really exciting opportunity, though, to think about the chance to cover a school's first ever Final Four. So it's, been a blessing to be able to watch the team kind of go on this run. And Alabama's built up some West Coast real estate. We think about the football team going out to the Rose Bowl, and then what the basketball team is doing on the West Coast over the last few weeks. So just a pretty dope opportunity to be able to just kind of follow the team along this journey. And, I think everybody in Tuscaloosa was really proud of what the team was able to accomplish.
I'm going to circle back. We got a couple callers who've been waiting, so let me go ahead and get to those guys. Alan, of course, MHS 047 said Alan is on his way to move Calipari from Lexington to Little Rock. But good morning, Alan. Just as long as you stay away from Nate Oates' house, we'll be okay. You're in with Martin, Xavier, and Kennington on the Alabama One hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, I can't tell you all my secrets, but I did get that phone call last night. We got a truck headed up that way right now. I believe honestly believe Calipari is forced out up there in Kentucky. I believe he was going to leave regardless. Nate Oates would not be a good fit for them because they are on a one and done basis, and he likes to get his players in, going and recruiting them. And I don't believe he's on that one and done thing like Calipari is. And Kentucky was tired of that. When you one and done and you preaching that and them guys are leaving, there's no chemistry. Everybody's about me, and there's no I and me. So he was on his way out. And as far as Bama goes, they were playing with the casino's money the whole time. They had nothing to lose. And they, to me, they were just one big man away. They just got gassed at the end of the game. And in Connecticut, they gave Connecticut everything that they wanted that whole game. And they just, it was score, chose something different. But Connecticut was on the ropes a couple of times. We just couldn't give them a knockout punch.
Kennington, get your thoughts.
Yeah. I saw some tweet that I thought was very astute, in some ways funny, that said Alabama was a center away from winning a championship in football and basketball. And that's really what kind of happened in the UConn game. Alabama was really just kind of a big man away from taking that game down to the wire. I thought that Bama played a really good game. I mean, I thought their defense was pretty sound. I thought they shot the ball well. Ultimately, Clingan and the depth that UConn had in the front court made the difference, and they just kind of wore Alabama down at the end. So that's kind of where the game came down to, and I think it's important to note that UConn is just a juggernaut. I mean, Alabama, it felt like if you were watching the game without a scoreboard at the bottom, Alabama took them down to the wire, gave them everything they had, and they still lost by 14 points. It just kind of shows how good UConn is and kind of where they are right now in the basketball landscape. But, Alabama was just a little bit overmatched in the front court, and they have nothing to be ashamed about because they've given UConn the best game that they've had so far in this tournament.
Kennington, let me ask you this, though. If the fouls don't happen early, I think our strategy had to change. I think that Nate Oates' strategy, and I don't want to get into the official too much, but it was one-sided. But when Grant got his second foul, when we had them spread out, that was a different team. This was the one game that Pringle couldn't make a difference. When we had our 5 in and we could go 5 out and Clingan couldn't sit and camp out because he had to guard, I guarantee you Alabama was a better team if you go back and look at it. Because that changed the game. He changed shots at the rim. Your driving kick wasn't there. Your finishing at the rim wasn't there. So I think that hurt. Get your thoughts real quick. Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially in that first half. You saw them being able to spread the floor. And in some ways, your point is ironic because Alabama's best lineup this year was, either the 4-guard lineup or, like you said, playing 5 out. So would have been, I guess, what you would want to see them maybe just kind of ride that out until the end. But, that didn't happen. And that's just kind of the result. So I do feel your analysis on that point where, especially that first half, them being able to spread the floor really made a difference in the game.
Yeah, and X, I'll get your thoughts. When you look at, to me, I don't question anything to the sense of I don't understand it. So this is just Martin. Diabate did not fit in that game. And I think that's when it got away from Bama. Ask your thoughts, and then I'll let Kennington respond, and we'll get to you, J-Rob.
Yeah, Diabate really wasn't a fit for it. But, I mean, the fouls early were kind of head-scratchers, and especially when you look at who the fouls were on in Grant and Mark, and Bama just really wasn't able to – Bama recovered from it, but down the stretch when you're worrying about not picking up a foul, not getting in trouble with it, you have to play a little softer defense, and UConn was able to take advantage of it.
Your thoughts, Kennington, on Diabate?
Yeah, I would agree with the Diabate point on the foul point. I think especially like early in the second half is when you kind of saw the fouls kind of dictate how the game was played moving forward. I think for people looking at it, it's not so much about how many fouls were called in the game. It was when and where they were called and how they disrupted the flow of the game. Yeah. And it was a severe disadvantage for Alabama when you look at it from that lens.
Hey, Virgil Williams asked this, and then we'll get to J-Rob. When is the last time you actually saw a lane violation called in college basketball? It was terrible all game long in our game as well as the Purdue game. I think I actually saw one called in the South Carolina versus Iowa game. Has that rule changed, Kennington? Has it? I don't know. I don't even know how to call a 3-second violation anymore. I don't even know when they start counting or when the clock resets. I have no idea what a 3-second is anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's kind of one of those things where they just call it when they feel like it.
It's worse than pass interference. You could call against those guys, man, and maybe they say, well, their feet so big they can't help but be in the lane. I don't know what it is, but when you can watch a guy be in the lane, then call and get someone else's attention to look at it. And then they still in the lane for 5 seconds after you get someone's attention or after you started yelling. And it's going to be interesting to see how they call tonight's game, because now you have two big boys that's going to get down there and bang together. So they may not call it this game either, but at least both, I guess it advantage both teams, in that sense. J-Rob, you're on with Kennington Smith III and Xavier. What's on your mind?
Good morning. Roll Tide, gentlemen.
Roll Tide.
I'm very proud of this basketball team this year. They gave a valiant effort Saturday night and just went cold at the wrong time. You know, they got tied up in the second half and went cold. Had a couple turnovers. And Diabate, I think he did hit the nail. He did not help us any. And I'm just excited about the future of this basketball program.
Kennington?
Yeah, I mean, the program is at such a healthy point, and depending on what happens with some stay-or-go decisions, Alabama's going to be a preseason top 5 team going into next season. Think about what they could bring back experience-wise, what they're bringing in and recruiting-wise. They're definitely going to bring in some guys via the transfer portal. So if everything stays intact, including Nate Oates as head coach, obviously there are some things circulating right now on the SEC coaching circuit. If you can keep Nate Oates in place and really kind of rearrange some of the loose ends on the roster, this is a national championship contender next year.
Yeah,
I agree.
J-Rob, you got anything else?
Yeah, to answer your question, this year's basketball team was only the beginning. You guys have a great day, both sides.
That's awesome. On the complete this statement, J-Rob saying this basketball season was only the beginning. And you have to love Nate Oates' post-game conversation when he said, we're going to work on our defense and and we'll be back here. Some people may think arrogant, cocky, etc. I love to see it. Glad that he feels that way, and I'm sure his players appreciate it. We got a few more comments coming in. We have Kennington Smith III of The Athletic on with us. The Alabama One hotline is open for business. You can join us 205-342-9904, or you can post your thoughts and comments in the live stream chat. You can go to Alabama Sports.
Get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama
High mileage full synthetic only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Claim based on sequence 3H test versus API SP test limits.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Yeah, I think, here's the thing about scrimmages a lot of times, right? There's a lot of rotation of guys. And so it's hard for certain players to have these big, big days. I think of a catch, Caleb had, big touchdown, big target, in the end zone. Nice throw. I believe Dylan made the throw, really nice throw, gave him a chance. And then you saw this mammoth of a human being going up and making a play. It was one of the more impressive plays, and it's what you want to do. It's going to be great film for us to teach off of, and so those bigger receivers, give them a chance. And it was down in the end zone, a little kind of corner route. So that's one play that sticks out. I think a lot of guys.
That's Coach Nate Oates, Coach Kalen DeBoer, talking about the big catch by Caleb Odom will work him back into the conversation in just a moment as he talked about that play by Caleb, and it kind of made me think about a question of how you like to see Alabama use those big wide receivers. So we'll transition that conversation in just a moment, but just got a few more questions and things from the basketball side of things. CJ Watson saying that that people out there dogging Nate Oates and saying that he got out coached and et cetera, and love to oh man, it was just amazing to watch some of the responses of people who were dogging Nate Oates and saying that we didn't have a coach and I guess Kenneth, they just forgot where they were watching Nate Oates coach. That's the only. I mean, I guess you could say the stage. If anybody had a negative, which I totally disagree with, they could say the stage was too big. But just overall, just a great run for Alabama basketball. Did you see Grant Nelson's comments about when they asked about coming back? Your thoughts there, and do you think which one of these guys who has the potential to have some eligibility, which one do you think is coming back?
Yeah, I did see his comments. I would think that Grant Nelson, just in my opinion, is probably closer to declaring than returning, just because he was considering the draft process last year, came back. I think what he did in the tournament helped elevate his stock. I think if you're an NBA scout, you look at him and think to yourself, he was really good playing out of position. If we can put him next to a center, he's really going to be somebody that we can develop into a pretty high level four in the league. I think that he could be a first round pick, which would, solidify him as a guaranteed contract. I know that's important for him. So I would say probably leaning towards him leaving. I think everybody else, Latrell Rice or Mark Spears, will probably lean towards staying. What those guys kind of are probably more second-round guys to a contract, not guaranteed money. So I think maybe coming back, being able to maybe play themselves into the first round, or being able to have a competitive dollar amount from the Gay Alabama Collective would help to sway their decision. So that's probably where I'm leaning right now, just in my opinion. But it wouldn't surprise me to see all of these guys come back.
Ed, your thoughts?
Yeah, Grant would be the guy that I would expect to leave if any of the key contributors were to leave. But I see him potentially coming back. I mean, his statements sound like he's like the statement about Estrada playing his last game. Sounds like he's leaning towards coming back.
I just found it weird that he said if he comes back, he'd like for it to be Alabama. That's the part that's weird to me. I'm like, that sounds like a guy who is going to be shopping himself, because he mentioned his agent, and to me, Grant Nelson is shopping himself to the highest bidder in college and the NFL. That's what that statement says to me, is that because there was no commitment that if he comes back to play college ball, that he's coming back to Tuscaloosa. And that's the new world we live in, and not hating him for it. Just listen to the comments and going, that's interesting. If I come back, I would like for it to be Alabama, which means Alabama's going to have to pony up, to pay him to come back. I will say Grant Nelson, my biggest concern with Grant Nelson is his ability to do what he did all game long, and all season long. That would be my only concern, Kennington, because he showed against NC, he showed big time ball, that he could dominate. He also showed in splashes against, like the dunk, taking him off the dribble. He showed it, but I just don't know if he showed enough against big competition that he could do it all year. And that would be my only question if I was drafting him to the NBA. But definitely showed some skill sets that you want in a 6'11" guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the consistency part is definitely a huge part of it, and I think him having the confidence off of this tournament run and having a full off season with Alabama's program would do him wonders, I think, going into next year if he does decide to come back.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see. Virgil Williams-San Wright was a no factor as well. He not gotten hurt and missed so much playing time in the tournament. I believe would have had a different, he'd been a difference maker. I agree with that. Does anyone know if Oates put pen to the paper on the contract extension, and if that $18 million buyout is for sure in play? My understanding is he signed it. Kennington, do you know any different on the contract?
Yeah, to my knowledge, he did sign it, and I'm just going to be honest here. That really is not very important when we're talking about the University of Kentucky. If they want him and he wants them, I don't think $18 million is going to stand in the way of that. So,
especially
either way it goes.
Well, the reason it's not as big a deal is because they're not having to do the payout on the other side. If they were wanting him and Calipari was there and they were having to fire him, then it'd be a different story, because they'd have two huge buyouts. That makes sense, Kennington.
If
you're looking at the $30 million, then you're talking about a different. They were going to have to they were looking at getting rid of Calipari. I don't know what all's going on there, but I think the fact that he's leaving tells you that there's more disarray there than you think, especially at his age, considering the type of contract and deal he had. So, we got one more call we want to get to. Joey, you're in, with Kennington Smith III of The Athletic. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning, gentlemen. First, Alabama had an awesome season. Nobody mentions his name, but we go back and say, what if Bediako had stayed?
Woo!
Instead of going to up to the minor leagues of the NBA, he'd stayed here to develop more. But the other thing is, I want to know what kind of punishment these officials will get. All you have to do is go in with that dunk by Nelson when he got mauled, and that was a flagrant foul. It wasn't just a foul. He got decked. He got mauled. The ball went in. He got thrown down and clobbered into that base. I mean, and then the Connecticut guy center doesn't even get a foul on him. It affects his game. He had 2 to 3, 4 fouls. The officials controlled that game. They wanted Connecticut there. They didn't want Alabama.
Kennington?
Yeah, I mean, hard to disagree with the analysis, just in the fact of the fouls definitely affected the psyche of the team and affected the aggression. There was one foul where Nick Pringle got fouled going up for a rebound, going up and trying to attack the ball off of the boards. Those type of things kind of creep into your mind. And then, as I pointed out earlier, those fouls, especially in the first few minutes in the second half, kind of set the tone. So disappointing, obviously, on the Alabama side to have those officials, like you said, Martin, earlier. You don't want to make this all about the officials kind of dictating the game, but it's undeniable that the officials had an impact on the game.
Yeah. Thanks.
They really did. And, I mean, it's unfortunate when you look back at it. There's a couple times, I mean, the Grant Nelson one was probably the most flat-out egregious no call in the game, but they were, and if it had been that way on both sides, it'd been different, but they seemed very quick and apt to make calls for when Bama was barely bumping the Pringle up. I mean, how do you not call a foul on when Grant gets hit on a dunk, but call a foul on Pringle when he's going up to stop an alley-oop? So,
yeah. It was disheartening at times. I had a friend of mine, he's a coach, say that 1 or 2 plays don't determine a game. And I get that it's a collective game, but 1 or 2 plays can turn momentum. And when fouls are called at a certain point, like our strategy changed when Grant got fouled. It changed the strategy when you had to take, Grant Nelson off the court. The funniest one for me was when the announcer said, "Whoo, that's a late call, that's a late whistle," and they literally said, I guess he was waiting to see if the shot went in.
He made it.
I was like, good gracious, that was so bad. But anyway, thanks, Joey. Appreciate you, man. All right. Hey, coming back on the other side, Kennington, we'll get your thoughts on scrimmage in Alabama football. We'll get Philip and then we'll get to some football. But before we go to break, Kennington, make sure you tell our listeners where they can find you, sir.
On X at SkinnyKenny _ or theathletic.com or the Athletic mobile app, searching anything related to Alabama athletics or my name, Kennington Smith III.
All right. We'll be back on the other side to put the finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. If you're making the drive along 2059 from Skyland Boulevard to the 359 interchange, that's an 8-minute drive. Along McFarland from Airport across the river to Jack Warner, 7 minutes. And along southbound 69 from Middle Area Road to 15th Street, that's a 10-minute drive. No major backups to the area for the time being. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. TPD spent their day responding to shootings in Tuscaloosa. 30-year-old Terrell Devontae Williams arrested, charged with capital murder and the shooting of a Holt man early Sunday morning. Tuscaloosa Violent Crimes Unit identified the victim as 35-year-old Jaquirio Rashad May. He was shot in front of his 10-year-old daughter. And 3 people shot at a gas station in southern Tuscaloosa Sunday.
Guarantee.
Text support to 511-511. Morning Kick. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. Martin and Xavier, we got Kennington Smith III of the Athletic on with us. Let's bring in Philip. Philip, you're on with Martin, Xavier, and Kennington. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning, guys. great year. It was a fun last few weeks, but I thought the officiating the other night was horrific. It changed the demeanor of the game. Grant got his second foul call with about 14 minutes to go in the first half. And then you had Mark Sears. You get a bang foul situation on him in the first half. The second foul on Mark, was just, he got creamed. I mean, he got knocked into the guy. It looked like an Alabama football scrimmage. And he got plowed into the guy, and they got Sears for the foul. I thought it was horrific officiating. I saw it on Twitter where Pat Adams is from Selma. What the hell is he even doing calling the game?
Do what now?
I saw it mentioned on Twitter that Pat Adams is from Selma. I said, what in the hell is he even doing calling the game?
I don't know, but it was. I think officiating. I said this, and thanks, Phil. I said this, Kennington and X. I said the Grant Nelson is what's making it hard for me to watch college sports. I mean, it's just guys. People are good. Let them play. Just be consistent. That's my only question, Kennington, is just be consistent. So, and I don't think it's been that way lots of times in the men and women's game. It's been bad. And the two players that gets a lot of favor, it reminds me of Michael Jordan in the NBA. Michael got more foul calls for him than against him. And Caitlin Clark gets more to her benefit. But she's a great player, so that's not what that's about. And Zach Edey, a great player, he gets more calls to his benefit. So, really quick before I get you a football question, Kennington, who you got tonight?
I'm going to go with Purdue. I know they're the underdogs, but it just feels like it's their time. And I've gotten a chance to watch them over the last few years being on the Iowa beat, and got a lot of respect for Matt Painter and kind of what he's building, and very much feels kind of like ultimate redemption arc. So I know it's going to take a pretty Herculean effort. I know they're underdogs, but I think Purdue's going to pull it off.
Do you see the officiating in any way favoring Zach Edey in this matchup, since it's 7-4 against 7-2, whatever it is?
Yeah, I think there's a precedent for how Edey has been getting officiated, both on offense and defense. I think I saw something that he hasn't fouled out at all this year, which seems crazy. So I definitely feel like it's probably going in his favor. And it'll be interesting to see how Clegan looks against Edey. I know he's 7'2", but standing up against somebody like Edey might look a lot smaller than that. So we'll see what happens. But I think, I'd expect Edey to get a favorable whistle like he always does.
X, what you got? Who you got?
Man, it's hard to go against UConn with what they've done. You think about Alabama and the run that they gave them, and then all of a sudden they still end up with this continued 13-point streak. I think they have too many big bodies on the inside while having enough shooters to be able to slow down Edey and pull away.
Yeah, I think Edey will have to play virtually the entire game, Kennington, and that may be his downfall. Is UConn is deep. They're not just good, they're deep. So I'm leaning UConn somewhere in the 5 to 8 range. I think it'll be a good game, but UConn has the potential, in my opinion, to pull away from them just as well too. If they can, you can't stop Edey. You have to just kind of contain him. As far as football, Kennington, did you get to make it to the scrimmage, or did you go out to Arizona?
No, did not have a chance to make it to the scrimmage, but was tapped in for Kalen DeBoer's press conference, and I found some pretty interesting notes, I think, coming out of it. I think the Caleb Odom catch in touchdown obviously, took a lot of headlines because he kind of singled him out as a standout. But something that I found to be pretty interesting that I think has been kind of an underrated storyline in spring was that he said that it's still a very much an open competition at kicker, and it's kind of been a situation where everybody's kind of had good days, bad days, and they're still trying to flesh through that position. I think that's going to be a really important element of what happens at A-Day, considering there's going to be a lot of people at A-Day. Maybe it's going to be a sellout, maybe it'll be close to it, but it's going to feel like a game-like atmosphere. So to see which kicker can perform well in front of that many people, I think is going to be pretty telling. So that was honestly my biggest takeaway from kind of all of the things that he said on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we haven't said it. I mentioned it the other day. Kennington may be the biggest question. You know, I think Alabama can get talent and find the talent, anything is missing, even in the portal, if they feel like after spring that they need to go back to the portal side of things. But it was good. Speaking of the Caleb Odom situation, my question for the day was, how would you like to see Alabama use the big wide receivers? And so to see that, you know, that a play happened down in the red zone in that corner route to Caleb Odom, even though it was a backup quarterback throwing it to him, you know, kind of gets you excited if you're an Alabama fan, because we just have never been able to utilize the big wide receivers.
And he's going to add a different dynamic to the room, even if he's, you know, even if it's just situationally, red zone, third down, middle of the field, those type of things. He's going to be able to be an asset. And to your point, you know, it was, I guess, against the twos or the threes. He said Dylan Lonergan was the one who threw the pass to him. Any opportunity anybody's had to speak on Caleb Odom this spring, whether it's head coach, offensive coordinator, position coach, or his teammates, all of them are kind of on one accord of how much he's impressing and what his potential is. So this isn't, you know, this isn't a narrative. This isn't an agenda. This isn't, you know, just kind of smoke. This is legitimate. Everybody is saying the same things about who he is and his potential. So even if he doesn't have some major role this fall, he's going to, I think, situationally be very helpful for the team.
Yeah, and, you know, I think this wide receiver room has some horses. I mean, I think there's some serious athletes there. X, I'll get your thoughts on tomorrow on how to use the big wide receivers. I know that's something you've talked about through the years, Alabama's inability to figure out how to do it. Will this coaching staff finally figure that out? Kennington, I'll let you have closing thoughts on anything you want to close out with, sir.
Yeah, I just think this is going to be a really great week for Alabama athletics to showcase themselves. You have the Final Four buzz. You have A-Day on Saturday. So once again, Alabama is going to be the center of a lot in the college football world. And I think Kalen DeBoer and the coaching staff are going to take full advantage of this momentum.
All right. And taking full advantage of that, big recruits, big scouts, big plays, big wide receivers. We'll talk about all those. We'll add DC Capstone Report to the conversation on tomorrow. Today we had the pleasure of catching back up with Kennedy Smith III of The Athletic at Skinny Kenny _ on the X. Joins us every Monday, during the 6 o'clock hour, joining us in the second quarter and hanging out with us for the remainder of the show. Give him a follow, give him a like, share his stuff. And thank you for being a part of the Martin Houston Show. And we want to invite you to join us on our live stream at Alabama Sports with Martin Houston. You can get all the post-show comments and content. We appreciate you. And roll tide out there, everybody. Remember this, trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. For Martin Houston, Xavier Houston, Kennedy Smith III, and Justin, we'd say roll tide and catch you on tomorrow.